Hello, it's time for Combat Patrol Carnage. So we're back with issue 50 and it's time to finish off the orcs as we've got some new lore and a short story to cover. So yeah, we learn about the first encounter with the Leagues of Votann in our stories. We learn about Ghazghkull, the Goffs, and of course orc culture. There's some very interesting articles to read, and a little short story is going to be interesting. Oh, didn't mean to say little, but I think the kin might be a bit offended. Then we can round off our next video with this issue's battle as we face off the Death Dread against a host of enemies. So before we do all of our reading, don't forget to of course do all of the usual. Like this video if you're enjoying the content, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, drop me a comment down below. Love hearing back from you guys and goes a massive way to helping out this channel as well. Finally then, Combat Patrol Carnage is proudly sponsored by warbay.shop, your one-stop supply for all your hobby needs. They stock everything you need from getting started and expanding your forces to adding your final colours and basing detail as well. They also stock past and present partworks from Hachette, including Combat Patrol. So if you're looking for some extra issues to flesh out your collection, or ones you've missed, check out the stock. They might just have the one you're missing. There's a link as usual in the video description, and who knows, you might find your next hobby project at a bit of a discount. Right, it's time for some lore. Let's head to the table and do some reading. Here we are then, back with issue 50 for the, well, second to last time. We've got our lore articles and we've got quite a few to go through. So we've got our Death Dread here, Grinzak, Big Thumper. And he's ready to stomp and clash his way through all those gits that he's going to face in the battle report for this issue, as we've got a nice little scenario for him to try out. So put him off to one side. We'll adjust the camera and we can dive right on in. In we go then, past our build guide and into our first lore article, and we're looking at orc culture. A horde of Goffs charge straight at the enemy to administer a proper kicking. Orc culture. Although some observers may pointedly describe orcs as being distinctly uncultured, they actually have a complex identity and a considerable range of interesting and unique cultural practices. All of the orcs get their identities from the different parts of society to which they belong. At the lowest level, each orc will be part of a warband, which may be as small as a few units or as large as a sizable army. All the warbands in any given area constitute a tribe. The tribe will be led by a war boss who has the authority, and the biggest choppiest chopper, to impose shared goals and send the tribe to war. Each tribe also belongs to a clan. Clans span the entire galaxy, and members of a clan share a cultural identity with each other. This is particularly obvious in the different approaches to fighting. The no-nonsense Goffs favour only the most direct and brutal of strategies, while members of the Bloodaxe clan are unusually sneaky, and the Snakebites clan are obsessive hunters and tamers of wild beasts, and so on. Currency. Orcs are the only species known to use teeth as currency. Bigger teeth are naturally worth more, but even the puniest orc can never be truly broke, as they can always resort to getting a punch in the face to free up a bit of loose change. Yeah, always good to have a gob full of teeth. Strange science. Most orcs don't care why their ramshackle technology works, as long as it is dead killy. But their enemies are constantly confounded by the fact that their bizarre contraptions can actually function, if not reliably. Orkish devices may be lethally effective in the hands of their creators, but rarely work at all when recovered and tested by Imperial scholars. This has led some to speculate that Orc technology may run on a psychic field generated by the Orcs themselves. The truth will never likely be known. The power of colour. Of all the Orcs' superstitions, one of the most significant is the great faith they place in the supernatural powers of colour. The Orcs believe that every hue has its own special property, which it can impart to a bearer of their gear if slapped on in sufficient quantities. The resulting brighter colours in which they take to the battlefield may look strange to their foes, but to the Orcs, a good coat of the right paint is just as important a part of their war gear as a proper sharp chopper or a spare slugger clip, or three. So yeah, we've got examples here of colours. Who better to explain it than Bork, as usual? Oh, thanks, Marvin. It's Merlin. That's what I said. Mervin. Just read.
Right. Red is for speed. Red is the quickest and the speediest colour that you can paint your wagon, because everyone knows that the red ones go faster. Yellow is for wealth. Yellow is the snazziest colour, and is used by flash gits for showing off and boasting. Blue is lucky. Blue is the luckiest colour. Nobody wearing blue has ever complained of being killed by bad luck. Except for me. Green is the best. Green is obviously the best colour out of all of them, because that's what colour Orcs is. Purple is sneaky. Purple is the sneakiest colour. Never seen a purple Orc, have ya? Exactly. Right, I'm done. I'm off.
Thank you, Bork. There we go. So yeah, there's the power of colour for you. And we see here the Boomdacker Snazwagon painted in, well, red so it goes faster. And this is our bonus model we'll be getting in a few issues' time. Well, once we've rounded off the Leagues of Odin. Moving on then, we got an article all about the Goff clan. Fighting threatens to break out amongst the boys as they try to push to the front. Orcs of the Goff clan can be found anywhere in the galaxy, dressed in black and carrying massive choppers. These close combat enthusiasts are more than a match for anyone who thinks they're hard enough. The Goffs are one of the largest and most feared Orc clans in the galaxy. They have a straightforward approach to war and are famous for wearing drab black clothes, as they consider anything more flamboyant to be mucking around or showing off. Many of their warriors wear horned helmets, all the better to deliver a brutal headbutt to anyone who gets in their way or just happens to be nearby. The Goffs prefer to fight in huge infantry formations while little regard to formal strategy, often appearing much more like a highly mobile riot than a proper army. The Goffs' unforgiving approach to battle leads to them suffering a truly dreadful casualty rate, even for Orcs. Only the toughest and strongest survive in the Goff clan for very long. Most Orcs are lost to the carnage of battle, but the survivors also face a culture of unending infighting and lethal squabbling. This leads to a higher concentration of knobs than most other clans, along with some of the more brutal war bosses that can be found anywhere. Orkiest of the Orcs. Orcs are known for being stompy, fighty and bashy, while some of the other Orc clans are known for mixing these with other traits like sneaky, stompy, fighty and bashy. The Goffs are simply the stompiest, the fightiest and the bashiest of all. They prefer to use direct and abrupt assaults, without having to spend any time on tedious plans or strategies. They love nothing more than a good scrap, and need very little excuse to get stuck into anyone who happens to stand in their way. Goff technology. Although they are fighting focused, the Goffs still use technology to further their brutal campaigns. It would come as no surprise that they take a particular delight in many of the more lethal Orcish contraptions, and the more claws, rockets and bombs they can strap to them, the better. They also make great use of vehicles like battle wagons. After all, for a clan that places so much value on fighting, what could be more welcome than an even quicker way to get to the front of the battle? Orc boys risk getting squashed as they race a massive stomper to battle. Storm boys. Even among the battle-hungry Goffs, most orcs would think better of strapping a rocket engine to their back and blasting into combat. But the Storm Boys, part shock troopers, part sentient projectiles, are drawn from the clan's rebellious youths, and have no problem flying into the face of clan traditions in their pursuit of a good crumpin.
Come on then, who wants some?
Yeah, and we see a Goff Storm Boy jetting off through the air with his rocket-powered jetpack, and his slugger and chopper in hand, ready to give a good crumpin to the right enemies. Next up then, we look at the leader of the Goffs, Ghazghkull Thraka, or, to give him his full name,
Ghazghkull Thraka, the beast of Armageddon, the conqueror of Piscina, Golgotha, and other places besides. The great prophet, the big green, the goffiest Goff, the stabbiest stabber, the hardest warlord that has ever been ever, and that's a lot.
Ghazghkull strides forward to where the fighting is the fiercest. Prophet of Gork and Mork. Ghazghkull believes that he is the prophet of the orc gods Gork and Mork. Whether or not this is strictly true, he has proved to be an excellent rabble-rouser, inspiring entire planets of orcs in his pronouncements. The Grand Warlord. Ghazghkull is a war boss without equal, a fact for which his enemies are profoundly grateful, as these campaigns of unparalleled violence have laid waste to countless worlds. Ghazghkull Thraka was a lowly orc warrior until a major blow to the head granted him visions of conquest that he believed came directly from the orc gods. Inspired by what he saw, he raised a great war and began his infamous campaign against the world of Armageddon. Although he was ultimately defeated, Ghazghkull was far from finished. He continues to lead his fellow Goffs into battle across the galaxy. Like all orcs, he loves to get stuck into the fight, blasting apart his foes at close range with his gun, Mork's Roar, or ripping them to shreds with Gork's Claw. The Great War. Ghazghkull's continuing crusade against absolutely everyone else is far greater in scope than anything that his enemies has ever seen before. Where a normal war might consist of a single force attacking a single planet, or perhaps a planetary system, what Ghazghkull has achieved is a galaxy-spanning torrent of death and violence, with forces under his command wreaking havoc on every corner of the galaxy. The Imperium has been absolutely confounded by the scale of Ghazghkull's campaign, and has tried but failed to stamp out Ghazghkull's forces. Of the many challengers who have tried to stop Ghazghkull, Ragnar Blackmane of the Space Wolves probably came the closest to succeeding. On the hive world of Krongar, the two warriors duelled. Although Ragnar was grievously wounded himself, he managed to decapitate Ghazghkull before he fell. However, the great orc's head was returned to his surgeon, Mad Doc Grotznik, who was able to recapitate it onto an even larger body, and so Ghazghkull's Great War continues. The forces of the Space Wolves charged desperately into War Ghazghkull. Makari. Ghazghkull's faithful banner waver, Makari, is famously the luckiest grot who has ever existed. No matter how hard the fighting, he always survives to follow his master into the next battle. Except he doesn't. Ghazghkull is deeply fond of Makari, and as nobody has the nerve to give Ghazghkull bad news, every time Makari dies, he is quietly replaced by a new lucky grot before his loss is noticed.
You go stomp them gits, boss. They're proper asking for it. We're all right behind you.
So yeah, the luckiest or possibly the only grot to never be noticed has gone missing. Yeah, seeing here a great war of the Space Wolves versus Ghazghkull. Yeah. The bitter rivals Ragnar and Ghazghkull there in mid-duel. While his boys, his knobs, his technology all ran pages into the Space Wolf veterans. Right, on to our last article. We've got a brand new short story, and it brings us a brand new faction in the form of the Leagues of Votann. Escape. The brave crews who fly the pioneer ships of the kin are always on the lookout for anything that represents a danger to their kindred, just as keenly as they scour for resources to mine. And danger is one of the few things that they are guaranteed to find as they delve into the uncharted expanses of the galactic core. Ymnir ran towards his goal with the replacement filter in his hand. Every task was a race against time. Not because the ship was falling apart. Far from it. The Orgrave was a pioneer vessel in its prime. It boasted unmatched speed and one of the best crews available, and all the armaments they had managed to fit into it. But any slight failure was still a failure. And if it was followed by another failure, then another, soon that falling pebble would become an avalanche. Eventually the ship would stop functioning, and in the perilous environment of the galactic core, this type of failure took no prisoners. Perhaps even worse than the possibility of dying in the freezing void, Ymnir would have to spend his last moments thinking about how he was the one who caused it. Eventually, Ymnir came to the service hatch, and with the practiced skill, he flipped it open and accessed the ventilation system. Moments later, the filter was installed and the ventilation happily hummed away. The Orgrave had been exploring hitherto uncharted areas for years, and Ymnir and the crew knew the place like the inside of their eyelids. Every sound and every sight. They only had to walk past a flickering light to notice the telltale signs of imminent failure, or pass by a relay and hear the click-click as it struggled to engage. Ymnir stopped in his tracks. Something was different. A subtle vibration that didn't belong coursed through his body from the fabric of the ship. It couldn't be coming from outside. Could it? Just as he started walking again, the ship jolted and lurched as though something had struck it. Cursing, Ymnir ran on. It didn't make sense. The Voidmaster was far too practiced to crash into debris or asteroids, and it was hardly likely to be some alien vessel had sought them out into void only to crash into the side of them. Ymnir's heart sank as he remembered the only enemies he'd ever faced who might actually do just that. The Orcs. Ymnir reached the control room at the heart of the ship. It was a bustle of noise and light. Row upon row of consoles lit the dark room, and their lights changed and flashed as information coursed through the ship's sensors. Sure enough, they showed that an Orc ship had smashed into the side of the Orgrave and wedged itself into the hull. Worse, the signals of an approaching Orc fleet were growing stronger every second. The Voidmaster stood in the centre, grim, efficient, and furious. "Have we sent a warning?" Ymnir called to the Voidmaster. "We cannot get a signal out," he called back. "They're jamming us. You must get away." Ymnir saw the problem at once. Their first duty, above all, was to send out a warning of the approaching Orcs. The Orgrave's engines roared as they fired, first forwards and then backwards, in an attempt to dislodge the Orc ship. But it remained firmly stuck in the hull. They could crawl away, but with the Orc vessel slowing them down, they would be easy prey. "I can take a team to blast it off," Ymnir shouted over the noise. The Voidmaster nodded. Ymnir barked a command to two nearby kin, and sprinted off in the direction of the armory, with them following close behind. It was not long before they were armoured. Ymnir and his two companions had trained as soldiers, and they were well prepared to come to a ship's defence. Inside each suit, a multitude of sensors tracked the movement of the wearer, and internal servos mimicked their motions, lifting the suit with them. Moments later, they headed out towards the compartment that had been struck. The Orc vessel was well and truly wedged into the Orgrave. "A simple charge will do it," said Ymnir. "If we can get it in far enough," replied one of his comrades. They set to work as the team cut through. The glow of plasma torches lit the derelict corridor, and the screams and groans of metal echoed through the fabric of the ship to the compartments around. But in the vacuum of the breached compartment, there was only silence. Finally, they cut through the hull, and as the plating fell away, a horde of Orcs spilled into the corridor, as if their ship had been packed to bursting. Immediately, Ymnir and his companions swapped their plasma torches for their weapons and began blasting their way into the Orc ship. Once inside, Ymnir pulled out a bandolier of charges and threw it behind them as they advanced forward. They were barely free of it when the charges went off in a flash of plasma, vaporizing the hull behind them. Ymnir heard the engines of the Orgrave roar again, but this time the hull of the Orc ship tore along the fissure left by the charges. Struggling, the Orgrave pulled free. Through the opening, Ymnir saw it speed away to deliver its desperate message. There was a good chance that Ymnir and his companions had bought them enough time. True, that left them here on the Orc hulk. But 3 souls in exchange for 1 ship on a vital mission, that was a bargain. And though their souls might never return to the Ancestor Core, they could make sure these Orcs paid a high price. Roaring a battle cry, Ymnir held down the trigger on his Ita Khan plasma gun as the relentless green tide flooded over them. So there we go, a nice short story introducing us to the Leagues of Votann as they try to escape an oncoming Orc horde. Even in death, we are not defeated. I think they stole it from the Space Marines, didn't they? But there we go, that is it for our lore articles. Up next, we got a gaming page, and then we get to try out Grinzak in battle as he gets to chop his way through a variety of enemies. So I hope you've enjoyed this delve into a little bit more of Orc knowledge and a short story introducing us to the kin of the Leagues of Votann. We'll be learning more about them in future issues as they are our next combat patrol. So there we have it. All what's left for me to do then is to say thank you all very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time on more Combat Patrol Carnage. Right, Bork?
Right, Marvin.
Merlin.
Marvin.
Bye.